With the juggernaut that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, many of Marvel's lesser-known properties has gained prominence in recent years. One of these is Guardians of the Galaxy, with 2 standalone films, as well as playing a significant role in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. It's safe to say that the Guardians of the Galaxy has gained a lot of popularity in pop culture. Building on this popularity, Eidos Montreal has built a game for current and last-gen consoles, which is published by Square Enix. I will be reviewing the PlayStation 5 version of this game today. The roster for the Guardians of the Galaxy has changed many times over the years in the comic books. However, this game closely resembles a roster which is featured in the movies. You take the role of Peter Quill, otherwise known as Star-Lord, and you command the team of Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Drax the Destroyer, as well as Gamora. You primarily control Peter Quill, whose main weapons are his blasters, using the L2 and R2 trigger buttons to aim and shoot respectively, very much like other shooting games. I like the use of the adaptive triggers when firing Peter Quill's guns, in that the triggers got harder to press as the gun ran out of ammo, giving you a non-visual indication as to when you needed to reload the guns. You can also view in the environment using Peter Quill's visor if you're uncertain as to where you need to go to or what your current objectives are. It allows you to scan and interact with different parts of the environment. Doing so also helps you to identify certain objects or aspects of the environment which can be interacted with by your other teammates. For example, you can give a command to Groot to grow vines, which will build a bridge. As later levels progress, you also are able to give commands to other Guardians of the Galaxies to do different types of commands, which help you to traverse certain areas or to solve puzzles. As the game progresses, you are given more and more details as to Peter Quill's backstory through the use of cutscenes and dialogue with his mother. These transition into playable areas, on completion of which unlock additional attributes for Peter Quill, whereby he is able to fire different types of ammo from his gun, such as lightning, fire, and ice. Different types of enemies react differently to different types of ammo, so in later levels it adds an additional element of strategy, whereby you get to choose which ammo to fire upon your enemies with. Using different types of ammo also helps you traverse certain areas. For example, freezing a certain platform for you to jump onto, or stopping a fan from rotating using his freeze ability, etc. What makes the game really interesting is Peter Quill's ability to give commands to the other Guardians of the Galaxy to initiate attacks. Holding the L1 button brings up the Guardians menu, whereby you can give commands to the Guardians to initiate different attacks. Each of the Guardians starts off with 1 attack which is available, and an additional 3 attacks which need to be unlocked as the game progresses. Using these attacks make the battles a lot more fun to play, as I found just using Peter Quill to try and defeat enemies was quite monotonous as using his blasters, whereas if you try and use all of the Guardians together to combine the attacks, the battles always played out completely differently each time I played the game. When the battle gets really intense, you also get an opportunity to call a huddle, whereby you give a sort of pep talk to your fellow teammates. Your pep talk has to be given based on the inputs given to you by the team, and if you choose the right option, you're given a slight buff, whereby all your team members do slightly more damage, and Peter Quill has slight invulnerability for a certain period of time. Exploration of levels is rewarded by giving you additional costumes for each of your characters, with inspiration for the costumes coming from the comic books. Onto the graphics, the PlayStation 5 has 3 graphical modes: Performance mode, which targets higher frames per second, Quality mode, which targets better graphics, and a ray tracing option which targets better reflections and shadows. All in all, the graphics in the game look fantastic. The cutscenes and the in-game cinematics look really good. I really enjoyed the voice acting of all of the actors, who really bring the scenes and the characters to life. In terms of the audio, the game has support for multi-channel audio. So if you're using an AVR to output your sound, the sound is very, very good. It also has a fantastic 80s styled soundtrack. So artists such as Rick Ashley, etc. feature prominently throughout the game. So if you like 80s music, you'll definitely enjoy the soundtrack of this game as well. All in all, I'd say this was quite an enjoyable game. I really enjoyed the offbeat sense of humor of the game. There were a few minor things which I didn't like in the game though. One was, in terms of level design, there were certain areas where you just fall off the map randomly, especially when the game gets quite intense with a lot of enemies on the screen. Sometimes it becomes difficult to keep track of where you are and you randomly fall off the edges of the screen. The second thing was that I noticed some bugs while playing the game, even though I had the latest patch applied. For instance, there was a time when I initiated a huddle between the team, and the game just pretty much had an endless animation which was looping, meaning that I had to restart the game and go back to my most recent checkpoint. And like I said, in terms of playing with Peter Quill, the real highlight comes from actually controlling the other Guardians members. I felt that actually playing with Quill on his own in later battles felt very underpowered to me, just using his blasters to try to get through the battles. But like I said, if you utilize the full power of the team, then the game is quite interesting to do. There's also some decision making you have in cutscenes where you can choose what Quill says or reacts in certain instances, meaning that you get to get a different experience of the game each time you play it. And on completion of the game, you also get a Game Plus option, meaning that you carry over all of your perks and weapons that you've built up over the course of the previous game when you start a new game as well. So overall, I'd say it was a very enjoyable single-player campaign, and I thoroughly enjoyed playing through the game. Because of the slight niggles in the game, I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. However, it's a game that I would definitely recommend if you are a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you for listening to this review and for tuning into my channel. If you enjoy this content, remember to please like, share and subscribe this video. Until next time, take care and happy gaming.